All right, so I invited a bunch of people over for dinner the other day and I made the most amazingly delicious coconut chicken stew. I had never made it before and it was just so good. And I'm really glad that I got it on video. So I have about 12 boneless, skinless chicken thighs here. And I'm just gonna put a bit of veg oil on them. And this is like a marinade, but it's less of a marinade today because I don't have very much time. It's just some salt, some oil, some ground up kind of pulverized garlic, and the same of ginger. I mean, I'm not measuring, obviously. So just some ginger, garlic, oil, salt. That's all that's going in here. And you can let this sit for, 20 minutes, half an hour. You could do this the night before. I don't usually fuss too much about marinating times just because by the time I decide I'm going to make something, it's too late to marinate. This, by the way, this garlic and ginger is, I just totally ground it up like in a big giant batch in a food processor because I knew I was going to need a lot of it, and that's one of my favorite ways to make a lot, and then I know I won't run out. The last thing I want in life is to run out of garlic. So I'm going to put this wide skillet on about medium high heat, and I'm just basically going to sear these chicken thighs to get a little bit of color on them. And I did put a bit of oil in the chicken already, but I'm also going to oil the pan. This is probably not necessary if you're using a non-stick, but I'm not. I'm using a real sticker here. So yeah, we're having a little dinner party tonight. So it's decided to make some curries. So these chicken thighs, and I'm going to make a little chickpea coconut thing as well as, and some flatbreads, some roti, and a few other bits and pieces. So this is just part of that. Having about 10 people over, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna check and see if this is hot. Yeah, it sounds good to me. It's sizzling. We got a sizzler. I mean, it could be sizzling a little louder, but I'm fine with it. There we go. So I've got about 3, 4, 5, 6 thighs in there, and I'm not gonna add any more because it'll just crowd the pan. So I'm gonna be patient and just let those get a bit brown before I flip them, and then I'll do the next batch. Like I said, it's a real sticker. I'm not trying to get these like super brown. I don't care that much. I'm just getting, I don't know, it just kind of feels good to start them off with some browning. See that? This chicken is all going to be stewed together, so the browning is more for flavor development than it is for, say, like visual impact. So I'm not going to fuss that much about getting it really beautifully brown. Just building a little bit of brown bits in the bottom of the pan is always nice. Good enough. Okay, so I've got some brown bits, which is nice, and I'm going to put in the equivalent of 1 large onion. I chopped a bunch of onions earlier because I didn't feel like dealing with them later. I can't see. worth it. So here's a big onion. And it's really nice in these kinds of dishes to get the onions quite brown, like to take it really to the next level. Not just kind of sauteing, but actually caramelizing somewhat. So I'm going to try to be patient. And if you find that your onion, the juices from the onion isn't quite enough to really get the brown bits off the bottom of the pan, you can just add in a splash of water and that'll help. A little deglaze and a puff of steam. Okay, so if your onions are cooking away and the pan looks a little bit dry, and you've already done the water trick to deglaze, sometimes it's a good idea to add a bit of oil, a bit more oil. We add a little bit at the beginning, but seeing as this is coconut chicken, I think I'd like to add some coconut oil. Just seems fitting, you know? About that much. And it's gonna smell so good. Okay, so the juices in here are getting pretty dark. I'm gonna turn this down a bit. The onions are nice and brown. So I'm gonna add some spices. I think one of the things that kind of holds people back from doing a lot of Indian food at home is the spices, because you kind of need a lot of spices. I agree, it's a little bit overwhelming at times, but I'd say that if you could only have kind of 3, I would say cumin, coriander, and turmeric are really good to have on hand. This is chili powder, but you could use cayenne, any kind of hot spicy kick. I'm gonna add a bit more water because this is going crazy. What else? Ground coriander. I am actually kind of like semi-measuring this because it is important that you don't go crazy with one spice over the other. I'll put all the measurements in the description box. Cumin and salt. So I'm gonna put a full teaspoon of salt because I feel like that's how much it'll need. And then once those kind of toast up a little bit, I'm gonna put in 2 canned tomatoes. So these could be fresh tomatoes, but seeing as it's not it's not the summertime right now, I'm just gonna use these canned ones. I'm gonna chop them up a little bit. I just can't bring myself to buy a fresh tomato in the winter. I don't know. It's just not my style. Tomatoes are going in. I'm going to use the rest of that can later for chickpea curry. And then I'm going to put in a full can of coconut milk. This is the fatty kind. I would never buy light because if you're going to buy light, you might as well just buy full fat and then add water to it or something. I think that's all light coconut milk is. So that's kind of melting together and it's looking good. And I'm just going to add back the chicken thighs. Look at that. Delicious. Get a lid ready. So in go my thighs and all their juices. Just kind of make sure they're nice and nestled. Okay, so these are gonna take about 20 minutes. I'm just gonna put the lid on and simmer them away on like medium low. When it's done, I'll finish it off with some fresh cilantro and a squeeze of lime, and we'll have it with rice and flatbreads and a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's gonna be delicious. When you're done with the dinner party, and if you have leftovers, this thing is gonna be the most amazing thing for all of your lunches for the following week. You can stick it in some of your homemade roti that you made and make it into like a little burrito. You can make a coconut chicken grilled cheese. This is a bit of a spin on something that they have at a local pub of mine. You can stick it on top of a roti pizza. You're gonna love this, you guys. It's so flavorful. It's like perfectly seasoned. It's coconutty and sweet and salty and fatty, and the chicken just falls apart, and it's just the best. So I hope you love it. So I should go touch up my face. You should, yeah. Okay. 2 hours till people come over. And go.
2 hours before the guests arrive. Fix your
do this to your face.